So one thing that is most important for any organization, of course, it is the culture. But what is the culture that you're trying to weave into or trying to massage a little bit? One aspect that I have found is extremely successful is to incorporate human-centered design thinking into a culture. That doesn't happen overnight, and it definitely doesn't happen instantly with your existing employees. Now, that doesn't mean to start to hire massively new skill sets, but instead to start to upskill and reskill some of your existing employees to really understand and think outside of the box around how do we look at things from the customer's lens, being customer driven, customer centric, rather than leading first and foremost from the business aspect. And that's not to say the business aspect is not important, because it actually really is. It just doesn't have to be the first most important aspect to focus on, or the only aspect to focus on. So with design thinking, this analogy helped me to explain to others the value that design thinking brings. A long time ago, I worked at an insurance company, and a life insurance company. And we focused on working in a waterfall methodology, meaning that we defined the scope of everything all at once early on before we even started day one of our work. And once we locked all of that in, then we spent the next 12, most of the time 18 months to continue to develop and iterate on that. But what we didn't do was to pause and take into account the customer needs, the customer wants, or even the changing things all around us in the macro environment. So an analogy that I use to help and explain why it was important to lead from the customer experience and focus from more of a design thinking perspective was, let's say that I tell your product development team, I need you to build me a car. And your product development team asked me all these questions: what color, how many doors, what's the horsepower, etc. And after 18 months, they present to me this beautiful new car. And that's great, but I don't use it. Why don't I use it? And this was actually a problem that we faced. Why doesn't anybody use it? We thought you needed it. You even said you needed it. So I said to the team, well, that's great that you created this car. I don't need it for this purpose. If you had started out with, you need a car to be built. Why? How would you use it? What would you need it for? Where do you need to go? And I would explain to them, I actually need to go from point A to point B, and that is 5 blocks away from each other. Or let's just pretend 1 kilometer away from each other. And so then the team could have said to me, you don't actually need a car. We could give you so many other things: a pair of shoes to go walking, bicycle, horse, even, or an Uber or a car, a cab to drive me from point A to point B. So that's when a lot of people started to realize, oh, it's actually really important for us to look at it from the client's lens as opposed to being business driven, to really understand what are the client needs so that we don't spend the next 12 or 18 months or even longer to go and build something that the client might not use, and it might not fulfill the needs of the client. So design thinking and focusing on a client centricity environment and culture actually truly helps you to really understand what is the need that you're trying to fulfill. What is the need you're trying to solve for? What are the jobs to be done, you might hear. And in order to get there, what do you need? You need to actually speak to some customers. I am constantly asking a lot of senior leaders, when was the last time that you spoke to a customer and you asked them just one simple question: how are we doing?